What's up, everybody? This week in sessions, we're covering how to cut dovetails on BenchPilot. We're doing through dovetails, half-blind dovetails, and we got a really neat little trick on how to make sure that BenchPilot plunges in the same time every time.
So if you're watching on YouTube, we're also live. This whole show will be live every other Thursday, 4 o'clock Pacific time, sessions.shapertools.com. Come over and check us out. You can ask us questions that we'll answer after the show, and you can also win prizes, and we'd love to see you there.
For now, enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shaper Sessions. My name is Jake.
I'm Sean.
And today, we're bringing back dovetails.
Always.
Little caveat, we're going to let BenchPilot do the work.
Hands-free dovetails.
A lot of people have been asking for this. They want to know, is it possible, or dovetails possible on BenchPilot? The answer is yes. And today's show, we're going to show you exactly how.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. We got a lot in store. We're going to show some different variations and kind of walk you through the process of what? 3 or 4 different types? Is that right?
Two different types. We're essentially going to make a little mock drawer box.
Nice.
We're going to go through dovetails and half-blind dovetails.
Nice. So we'll walk you through the process of creating the files and bringing it over to Origin and then letting BenchPilot do the work for you. That way, if you're batching out a bunch of drawers or anything else, just load it up, hit go, and continue assembling while it's cutting your next drawer.
Exactly. Reminder, everyone, this is a totally live show, so please use this opportunity to ask your questions in the comment section below. We're going to go through everything at the end during the Q&A and answer your questions, as well as about halfway through the show, we're going to have a poll question pop up. That question of the day is, so you can ruminate on it, what was the first project that you created when you got your Origin? You got to answer that question in order to enter your name into the raffle at the very end. And as always, we got some fun giveaways.
As always.
All right. I always like to start off with a little sawdust.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to let BenchPilot cut the first set of tails. We're doing through tails first. And it's a two-part operation. I guess I could technically do it in one, but I'm going to pocket out some of the material first with a straight cut bit or standard 1/4-inch bit, and then we'll bring the dovetail bit in.
Yeah, and it's kind of, this is really a question of trade-offs. Do you want to hog more material out with the dovetail bit, or do you want to clean it out so the dovetail bit can do less work? In general, clearing out does speed things up and will keep that dovetail bit lasting longer.
Yeah. All right. Let's set it.
All right, so Jake did a pretty sweet thing here, and we'll talk about this more as the show goes on, but you'll see that little dot that he put kind of in the middle. This actually, every time that BenchPilot goes to cut the shapes, it's going to plunge that cut first. And so, we don't have the ability on Origin to specify where to stop and start the cuts. It kind of will do a proximity-based detection of that. So you don't really have to think about it, but in this case, you would like to start and stop in certain areas. By putting that point there, BenchPilot's always going to go to that point first because it's an online cut, and then it'll just cut these sections from there. And so you can kind of just let it go afterwards without having to worry about, is it going to the right spot or not? And this is pretty important, especially when we get to the dovetail bit, because we want to make sure it starts cutting in a certain spot. And that's going to help us not kind of come out of the cut when we're in a bad spot. We always want to plunge and retract before we're cutting the tails. And so you'll see that in a minute. Right now we're using a straight cutting bit, and we're really just clearing all this area out so that when the dovetail bit comes in, we don't have as much load on the bit, and it will clean that out a lot easier. So yeah, it's a pretty sweet little trick for BenchPilot.
Yeah.
That Jake figured out.
Later on, we'll go straight in with the dovetail bit and slow BenchPilot way down. But if we can move some of the material out of the way first.
Yeah, because you remember, Origin, anytime it goes off the path, it's going to retract. And so, when you're doing these manually, you got to be pretty smart about where you start and stop the cut so you don't retract when you're kind of inside of one of the tails. But with this little method that Jake figured out, it's pretty painless. You'll see it as we go throughout the process here. It's just going to kind of go back and forth to that little point and then it'll start the cut from there at the closest point on the line. And so essentially we can tell it where to start.
Yeah.
So this is final pass here for this bit, and we're just kind of, I think Jake put a 0.2-inch offset on this one, so we're not going all the way to the edge because we don't want to, right? That dovetail bit needs to go through here and leave the top closer than the bottom. So he put a pretty hefty offset on it just to clear out a majority of that material. And, if you were trying to optimize this for a very specific set of drawers, you could probably build it in a way where one path would clean that whole thing out,
Yeah.
All right.
All right. First one roughed out.
We should also note, Jake, did some test cuts earlier and had a little issue with tear out. We're using thermally modified ash.
Yeah.
Don't know if that is causing more issues than normal, but we have some blue-sided tape taped onto the front, and let's see if it helped a little bit.
Right. And then, we generally don't use these. They're the MDF spoil boards that come with Workstation. I find if I'm cutting a tenon, I don't reach for them.
Yep.
I'm not getting tear out on tenons. But sometimes when we're cutting in and out of end grain, like box joints, dovetails, it's nice to have that backed up a little bit to it.
Yep.
So all that to say, save your spoil boards for your dovetails. All right, dovetail bit going in. That's a 15-degree dovetail bit.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, this is a bit we sell in the store that works really well. It's a 15-degree bit. It has a 13-millimeter depth of cut, maybe a little bit more. And, if you haven't gotten one of these and tried it out, after this session, we hope you pick one up.
I'm going to go ahead and Z-touch off of my material. And
this is the one note if you're switching between bits, don't forget the Z-touch when you go to that dovetail.
Very important. I even went as far as editing my presets.
Oh,
so
nice.
that my dovetail bit size is right here.
Yeah, so if you haven't been around for a bit, we just released a update for the Origin called Napa, and this has editable presets where you can change almost all the presets in your cut depth, cut offset, cut diameter, all the speeds that you use, and these allow you to set it up for the types of projects you use, so you don't have to type in and remember that diameter. So you can do it forever, or you can just save it for a day and edit it tomorrow.
A feature that I have been asking for since the beginning. I'm so happy to see it. It's like,
so nice to see him smile too. You know, deliver these little nuggets.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, now that we have the dovetail cutter, this is when it requires all our mental focus, because we want to make sure. I'm making it sound that hard. It's not that hard. That's why we put that little dot in there.
That's right.
So that if you are just in the zone and you hit go, but you're not in the right place, no matter what, that dot is going to put Origin in the right spot.
Yep.
So I'm going to switch this to an inside cut. And I need to make sure that I am doing this in one depth pass. And a finish pass is totally fine.
So if you want, you could even turn that setting off by clicking the top toggle, and then that will not apply any multiple depths to anything in the future. Right. And so if you were to switch back to your 1/4-inch bit, you'd want to turn that back on. But this is a great way, especially if you're setting it up to just cut with a dovetail bit and you're going to be doing the same pass every time. Turn that off, then you don't have to worry about it. It's going to do that in one go.
Exactly. I'm going to go to 0-inch offset. We said before, we're cutting the tails first, the part that goes out like that. And that is a lot easier to test fit into the pins later on. So tails first, then your pins. Okay.
All right. Let's go.
Let it rip.
And, you could do it the other way if you wanted. Yeah, this is where it's going to go plunge that little point, and now it'll go straight to the closest line, which happens to be here, and it's just going to go all the way around. Now, I think Jake has this set to about 20 inches per minute. You'll see him kind of adjusting it over there, but you're going to have to kind of tune this for your wood. If you have a really hard wood or very soft wood, you're going to be able to kind of make the speed go different, and you'll have to, I would not check this out on your first cut, I'd probably, make a piece of extra stock so you can test it out without, ruining a set of drawers that are grain matched. But this should allow you to figure out the right speed. And then it's going to go back around and do a finish cut, and this is going to get you that kind of really clean cut. When the dovetail bit goes down there, there's a lot of material that's being taken off underneath the surface, and so, we just want to make sure. I would definitely do a roughing and finishing pass here. That way, the chatter of the bit, if you're taking off too much in the first pass, really gets cleaned up in that finishing pass. But yeah, I really like this little dot trick. I think we even set the depth of that dot to 0 encoded depth, and then that means that it's not going to plunge the full thing. It'll just kind of go over there and touch down right over the air cut. So, yeah.
The one thing we didn't mention, and I'll show this on the screen, but we adjusted the plunge speed. We wanted to make sure that the plunge, basically from the ramp down, happened as soon as possible.
Correct. Yeah, if you have a very low plunge speed, then what's going to happen is that ramp is going to take a lot longer. And so maybe if we just go there real quick before we show this off, Jake.
So our plunge speed is maxed out at 16.5 inches per minute, and that basically shortens the distance that it takes for Origin to go from 0 to full depth.
Correct. And so just make sure that's a high number, so that way you're not, ramping down and still going into that first cut. All right, so let's see what we got.
Bam.
Move this.
Thank you. My camera is in the way. All right, that looks great. 0 chip out on the back edge.
Yep.
Tiny little bit. Again, thermo ash is probably not the best choice for this, but here we are.
Smells great.
Smells like coffee.
Kind of coffee chocolate.
Yeah. Like a rich, dark chocolate coffee.
We've had this wood in here for a while, so I think this is probably just like smell for the rest of the time. Imagine open a little tea box every time, get a little sniff.
Yeah. So there we go.
Nice.
We'll flip that around. Let's go ahead and talk about how we got here, how we generated this file.
Correct. Okay, so there are a bunch of different apps and whatnot on the internet that do this. We'll talk about it a little bit later. We have a Fusion plugin that allows you to do it, but today we're going to focus on this Bieber Dovetails app. And
Justin Bieber?
Justin Bieber, yes. He actually worked on it for the last year or so.
That's what he was doing.
No, Bieber is one of our forum users who created this app to generate dovetails for Shape Origin. And
I'm sorry. I'm sure you get that all the time. Your app is fantastic, and we're so thankful for it.
Yeah, it's really great. A lot of people have gotten use of it, and we're gonna walk you through some of the basics now. So we'll jump over to my computer. If you can't remember this, just type in Bieber Dovetails on Google, and it'll bring you here. And when you get here, what you're going to see is kind of some inputs over here, and then a visualization of kind of the tails over here. So we're going to start by entering some information, and then it'll generate after we input a few of these details. So we'll start with dovetail type. Let's just do a 3 through for now, and we want to use millimeters. Okay, there's a couple values here that we need to think about. Dovetail diameter is actually the end of the dovetail, the widest part, and that is 13.8. And then our straight bit is basically what we're going to cut the pins with, which is a 1/4 inch bit. Oh, that is a mistake. It's not 13.8, it's 13.6. The straight diameter is a 1/4 inch. That's what we're using to clear out the pins now, or 6.35 if you're metrically inclined. And then the cutter height is actually going to be 13.8. That's where my other one came from. And this is the height of the cut that the dovetail can achieve. And that just tells it, because both parts of the dovetail are actually related in multiple ways. And so we do need to put that in. And then the cutter degree for this shaper dovetail bit is 15. Okay. So now that we've done that, that's basically defining the cutter we're using. And then now we're going to jump over to our material. So our material thickness is 12.7 millimeters, and our width is 152.4. Okay, so this basically gives us everything we need to start generating. And we can do that by saying we want even spacing or fixed or pins or tails, but let's just do evenly spaced because these are kind of the basic ones. And let's just put a 3 into here. And when we hit auto layout, it's going to generate the visual for our piece.
Nice.
Okay. So this is kind of the most simple way. You can, obviously come back in here and type 5 or 1, and it'll kind of regenerate over and over. Okay, so that's kind of evenly spaced. Now, the app gets a little more complicated if you want to do some more fancy things. So I'm gonna change this to 2. Okay, so we'd have this. And now what you'll notice, if I hover the tail spots and I click, they're gonna become selectable where I can actually modify specifically. So let's say I wanted to do some kind of uniform, non-uniform dovetails. I can come in here, I can specify, I can add another pin by just clicking. And if I have unselected, I can change where it's at. So let's say I wanted the width to be 20 instead of 40. Boom, it just updates that one. This one doesn't because that's the selected one. And then I can also change the position. So if I wanted it to be 20 millimeters from the right or 80, you can kind of, really move this around. And then last but not least, there's a button to enable half pins, and then you can kind of change the width here. So pretty powerful app to be able to change all this stuff. I'm not going to rebuild exactly the one that Jake just did, but I believe he just did, if we delete all the selected ones here, and I think he just did 3, auto layout, and there we go. Cool. Now, once we get here, we need to get the files. So there is some, figuring out with the anchoring system, but we're just going to keep it on our default bottom left. And then we need to download the tails. That will download one file. The pins will download the other file. Now, the pins A and B are actually basically set up if you need to register certain parts of the wood. By default, I think we're going to use tails and pins A. But if you were trying to keep reference faces in certain ways, you'd have to flip the file, and the A and B are essentially ways to do that. Now, if all this seems confusing, look at this. There's a button right in the bottom that says instructions, and if you click it, it's a huge walkthrough of basically everything I just said and more, even explaining specifically what these diameters are, how to edit pins, why you would mirror designs, layout, and how the exporting works. Now, we would just download these and we uploaded them to my files, and then they're instantly available on Ship Origin. Boom. So that's the Beaver Dovetails app, and it can do through dovetails and half lines. We generated both the ones we're talking today through this, and maybe we'll throw them up on Shaper Hub afterwards, or you can try to generate your own.
Yeah. I'm set up to cut my next set, which is a half blind.
Okay.
And it looks very similar. The only thing that's different is we're now cutting slightly into our stock with this radius, which is really important. So same as before, I'm going to do a 0.2 offset and let this hog out the majority of the material first.
Cool. There we go, going back to that point. Now, that point's not going to get generated with the Beaver app, so you'll either need to kind of pop that into every workspace, or use Studio to just generate a little draw tool that Origin will go to first. If you're not familiar, the ordering of how Origin cuts these paths is essentially by cut type and then proximity. So the ordering is online cuts first, then pockets, then inside cuts, then outside cuts. So here we are, we're pocketing. So anything that's an online cut will get cut before a pocket. And that's just how we built this, so that every time it would automatically go to the right spot. What we don't want is if we didn't have that point and we hovered one of the tails area, it would just plunge right on that spot, and that's not, we want to undercut that thing, not overcut it.
Got hung up on my cord.
Oh, there we go. So if you're not familiar, if BenchPilot gets snagged or can't move, it will retract. And so just make sure your cords are out of the way so you don't hit that at the inopportune moment. Yeah, there's a few more cords in our setup than yours, so a couple camera, power, you shouldn't have as much of an issue there. Now, Jake, for viewers who might not have ever cut a dovetail, either manually or with Origin already, what's the difference between a half blind and a through dovetail, and like when would you use each?
So through dovetail is what you can imagine used on like a classic box. It can be seen from both faces of the box.
Yep.
It's all the way through. Half blind gives you at least one face that's completely clean of any joinery. The catch is that face needs to be slightly thicker.
Ah, okay.
And
nice.
So it's great for drawer boxes where your drawer face is, say, even an 1/8 inch thicker than your drawer sides, and it leaves a nice clean front face. So you open that drawer and you have a beautiful dovetail detail.
Oh, nice. So if you're making like a more clean, modern piece of furniture, maybe you don't want those dovetails to show through the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, dovetails only have one pretty angle. Well, that's not true. They have a good side and a normal side.
Right. Okay.
And from
There's
one,
our
from one edge,
pass.
it looks like a box joint.
Right. Correct. And we did a show a couple of shows ago with some non-uniform box joints that are almost indistinguishable from certain angles.
That's right. Yeah, has that aesthetic.
Well, and I think if you're going for dovetails, you are really looking for this specific look, and obviously some more holding power when it comes to the kind of the mechanical nature, and not just relying on glue. But it does take more effort, and depending on the situation, it may not be necessary.
Today we're using the 15 degree.
Yep.
In a hardwood, which is not typical. Typically, you'd use a much shallower degree, something like a 7 degree angle for the dovetail bit. And that's because, and then in softer woods, you would use a steeper angle, mainly because softer wood's compressible.
Yeah.
And hardwoods need a little bit more forgiveness.
And you're cutting all these to a 0 offset?
I am.
Okay.
And it's just chef's kiss.
Nice.
Okay. Switching from a pocket to an inside, and we're good to go.
Okay. So I could see if you were cutting a ton of these, you might even, batch process all of the straight line cuts and then, replace your stock, keep running it so you don't have to Z-touch over and over, replace it all, use that same indexing system, bring it back, change your dovetail bit, swap everything out, and let that run. And I think you could probably do some timing trials to see which one was faster. But, it's one of those things where, while this is happening, you can be assembling the previous thing, designing the next thing.
Yeah.
This is kind of one of the beauties of having BenchPilot in the shop is, you just get that time back. And it may just be 2 minutes or 3 minutes sometimes, but you really can start getting in a groove where you're just, while it's working, you're doing it could be even as simple as cleaning up your shop. I'm a little bit of a chaos monster, and I find sometimes it's like, hey, for 3 minutes, I'm going to just go put some tools back where they belong.
What a novel concept.
Yeah, that is a novel concept.
I'm bad. I have a out of sight, out of mind, or sometimes in sight, out of mind.
I have more of a make a mess in the shop until I can't function any longer, and then I have to stop everything and clean. All right.
Beautiful.
Oh, you could smell the shop right now. This one might be turning into one of my favorite shop smells for wood.
Yeah, better than the cedar?
Yeah, the Alaskan cedar is quite nice. Yeah, maybe it's just a different smell, There. So if you look at these, actually the dovetails on these through are actually cover all the way around. So they actually are cut, directly around. And we're going to show you when we go to this next step, kind of the reason for that cut going all the way through, because it is a little bit different than if you were, doing it by hand or whatnot. Because we're basically going to, where's our pieces? Right
It's
here.
back here.
Boom.
We're going to, this is the drawer front, substantially thicker.
And a little bit non-proportional. So this is a demo test. So,
Yeah, exactly. But I thought it was kind of cool. We got thermo ash and normal ash.
Yeah, it is nice. I like that.
So this is what our drawer face is going to be out of.
Nice.
All right, before we get into cutting the pins, let's go ahead and take a little break.
Oh, shop break. Okay, nice.
Good time to bring that poll question up. Reminder, the question is, what's the first question? All right, but what's the first project that you created with your Origin?
What's yours, Jake? Do you remember?
It was probably a cleat.
Yeah.
Like one of the cleats of the week that we used to do.
Nice. Yep.
First personal project, but that was definitely for work.
Yeah.
I made a Gothic-inspired screen, like a little changing screen.
Yeah.
But I made a mock version of it. Basically, it just had like kind of like cathedrals and.
Yep. It's funny. That would be 9 years ago for me almost. It was I actually remember it was the first day of work, and I think Joe said, "Hey, just go down to the shop and like figure out how this tool works." And so I just was playing around, and I was 3D printing like these little wind turbines at home, and I needed a tail for the turbine to like for the wind to kind of balance itself. And so I used a pin tool on Origin, and I made the ugliest little fan you've ever seen, and cut it out and took it home, and that was the first thing I ever made.
Nice.
All right, so put your first project you created in that chat, and then we will move on to a very exciting announcement, Jake.
A little sneak peek for
tell
all
me
you
about it.
session viewers. We got a challenge coming up. Yeah. Origin Owner Challenge, specifically around joinery. This year, we're going to try to do a couple different challenges. This first one kicking off, not yet, in just a few days. That's why you get a little sneak preview of it. On February 9th to March 6th, we are running a joinery challenge. First place gets $1,000 to the Shaper Store.
Ooh.
Second place gets $500. Third place gets $200. Why not try? Here are the caveats. So it's a joinery challenge. You can do any kind of joint you want. The point is the joint, not necessarily the project that it's used in. So think about what we care to see is the quality of the joint. Why was it used? Of course, your documentation is always important. Just the general fit of the joint. And I think that's it. Yeah, it's really all about that connection point. So the way that you're going to enter to win, you're going to create a Shaper Hub project for that joint. And in the description, you need to have hashtag joinery-challenge. Hashtag joinery-challenge in the description. That will put it in the running, and the people are going to vote. We're going to use the star system.
Oh, people. Nice.
The people are going to vote, and by March 6th, we will have an answer on the people's favorite joint.
Yeah, so if you aren't familiar on Shaper Hub, you can click the star button, and that will remember that you've liked this project, but it'll also give that project a little bit of cred, and the high ones will go up to the top of the list.
Yep. All right, so go ahead and start thinking about it now, or start working on it now, whatever you want. But remember, the point is the joint. Can't believe I just now came up with that tagline.
That's hard to believe. Did if you had $1,000 to the Shaper Store, what would you spend it on?
BenchPilot.
BenchPilot, yeah. It would
go towards BenchPilot.
That would take a big chunk out. I would probably an extra spindle maybe.
Extra spindle, maybe a handful of 8mm by 35mm bits.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the 8mm bits.
Oh, the bit kit. If there's any bit kits in stock, that's like exactly $1,000.
Oh yeah, that's right. That would be a pretty good win.
Yeah.
All you got to do, post a Shaper Hub project. You never know. All right. So yeah, get excited. Don't post it before February 9th.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Just don't tell anybody. Just
This is just for you.
Just for you. Okay, let's jump into shop tour time.
Let's do it.
This is from John Percy, and he sent us an email with a video of his shop, and we're going to show it to you. And you could send a video of your shop to us at sessions@shapersduels.com and get your shop shown on Sessions.
Yeah, and we'll send you something nice.
That's right. Here
All
we
right,
go.
Let's do it.
Well, hello. My name is John Percy. I'm an amateur woodworker out of Austin, Texas, and I'm going to show you my shop. I've got it in my backyard. My neighbors and I built this probably about 15 years ago. The wood is largely reclaimed from large electrical trestles that were blown over by Hurricane Ike. So it's pretty small, but I managed to make decent sized furniture in it. So there's my 18-inch bandsaw, and immediately in front of the double doors is my unisaw, and connected to that is a router table, which is under all that junk. I've got lots of clamps, as every woodworker needs to have, lots of squares, get some good tunes in here. My wife says that I am a woodaholic, and she's probably right. I've got a lot of wood. My goal is to always have a lot of wood because I want to always have a lot of projects. And like Sam Maloof said, as long as I keep having clients, then I'll never die. So that's the plan. Right there is the beginning of a queen-size bed. That's one of the posts. I've got the planer on a revolving stand with a 10-inch drum sander. So that flips over, and that works out really great. I do a lot with the tools that you see in front of you. My Shaper Origin is key to the work that I do, as well as my table saw. Kind of a recent addition is the Anita dust collection system, and you can see I've got the dust collection system routed throughout the shop, and it does a marvelous job collecting the dust and just keeping things healthy for me. Lots of saws, lots of storage ideas. Took advantage of IKEA and used a toy storage system for various sundry tools. More wood over there. Mortiser. I've got a little bit of storage back in here. An old shopsmith that I still use for its lathe functions and horizontal drilling every once in a while. And that's basically my shop. The bench is also made of hurricane blowdown wood, as well as an old laptop that I got secondhand when Lockheed closed their facility here in Austin. So that's my shop. It's small, but it's mighty, I like to say. And I've won a number of ribbons from the Texas Woodworking Furniture Show, and hopefully I'll just keep at it. That's a new load of cherry for that bed, queen-size bed that I'm making for a client. And yeah, that's the shop. Hope you enjoyed it.
Fantastic.
I love that little building.
So cool.
I think one day I'll probably have a similar woodsy building.
Yeah?
Yeah, just such a nice, space.
Oh, yeah, especially when it looks that beautiful on the outside.
And all those tools inside. The shopsmith.
We got to call out the shopsmith because you don't see those often.
I mean, I think, some of our viewers probably do know, but some might not know. This was this tool that was like a tool that can do all sorts of different stuff.
Swiss Army knife.
It's a Swiss Army knife. And it's kind of funny because we have kind of some of the same vibes in origin, You don't have to take it apart to turn it to the next thing, but it can do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Remember,
okay.
Freshman year at furniture school, I was in a small apartment, and I found a shopsmith on Craigslist for really cheap, and I was like, I could do this on my tiny little balcony, right?
Yeah, I've only seen them in person. I've never used one,
Yeah.
but I've heard good things, especially for small shops.
Thank you so much, John, for sending that in. We're going to send you something nice.
Yeah. All right. Break's over.
Let's get back into it. We got some pins to cut.
We do.
I've already cut one set of pins. If we can hit that overhead for me. This is where that pin A and B situation comes into play.
Okay.
I had this edge referenced against my workstation pins. So I placed my pin A file like this, and you can see how it's cut like that. When I flip and maintain my reference edge, I need to use pins B because
Correct.
they're going the opposite direction.
Yeah, and
Just put that into context.
And just imagine the entire bottom of the box you wanted to kind of reference off of. You would want to be thinking about which side is touching, because if you have any variance in your material thickness, when you flip it the wrong way, you're going to obviously offset those shapes a little bit. So you might have to play with it a little bit, but it's really not that bad. You just need to kind of decide how you want to reference faces.
Quick call out to this too.
Oh yeah, a little pro tip.
It's a little Sean pro tip. Nobody wants to cut into your support bar, especially with a dovetail bit that has to plunge all the way out here. Sean's idea is to throw a little blue tape here, just so when you reset this location, it's the same every time, and you don't accidentally go too close.
Yeah, little tip.
Good tip.
I would not know from experience what happens if you don't do that.
Origin cuts aluminum, great.
But it loves cutting aluminum.
Okay, I need to swap back to my 1/4-inch bit.
So yeah, when you're cutting the pins, you're not going to be using the dovetail bit anymore. You're going to go back to a straight bit, because we don't need to undercut the pins. We only need to undercut the tails. So a quick spindle swap. Man, Jake, you remember when we only had one spindle?
Try not to.
Magic. Okay, so same thing. We'll just touch off. And then now we probably do want to change those autopass settings.
Hold on. I did some work beforehand where I made workspaces for each of these operations.
Oh,
and
nice.
I named them. So this is going to be through pin B. And there we go.
Wow, look at that.
And I left in my old cut history to remind myself.
That's a pretty good tip too. Like if you're working with multiple workspaces, keeping the cut history really helps you understand, like, okay, this is the area that's being removed. Obviously, if he was using tail A, it would be the pins would be flipped, and so you could kind of see that pretty quickly.
Correct.
Kind of one of the beauties of having that image right on screen with Origin. Once you get used to it, you kind of take it for advantage.
Yeah.
But seeing it and be like, okay, yes, the references on this edge, these are which way the pins are going to be facing. Great. Nice little quick check.
Yeah. But now I can go ahead and clear that. And I'm just going to go.
Are you going to send it full depth?
I'm just going to send it.
Okay. Yeah, so in these, we don't need to have that point plunged beforehand because we're not undercutting anymore. So we're only using that trick when we're actually using the dovetail bit. Now we're just back to normal Origin land and let it run.
And for this, I feel we're cutting into end grain.
Yep.
So I have it going pretty quickly down to the final depth.
Yep.
And max speed of 45 inches per minute.
Yeah, and this is one of the things you're going to find that once you get BenchPilot is, some of the rules of normal Origin usage can be broken because BenchPilot's a more rigid system than you are as a user. So, where I would sometimes, want to do certain cuts by hand, the bit would get out of, a little out of control or whatnot. BenchPilot's got a lot better grip on it. So if you need to do these types of cuts, you have the option to. And it really does come out nice when you if you start thinking, hey, I'm going to do a chest that has, 9 or 10 drawers, you start worrying about the type of speeds and stuff and, kind of optimizing for your material and your bits. and just your time.
Yeah. I think this has inspired me to do a dovetail box as wide as workstation.
Oh, a big one.
Big old one.
16-inch wide box or something maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, with that application, you know, some of the 3D-ness of the dovetails are kind of hard to visualize how they're going to come out, you know, so you might have to cut some, realize, oh no, you want the tails spaced out more, or, you know, I really like non-uniform dovetails. And honestly, the type of bit you use is also going to influence the look quite heavily, you know. A wider angle bit is going to show, you know, a much bigger, wider tail. If you want those kind of smaller, more classic tails, you're going to have to find a smaller angle bit. But yeah, the beauty of BenchPilot is, you know, just the ability to do some other things in the shop while the work's getting done.
Nice.
All right.
I think I figured out what it smells like.
What?
Pastrami smoked lox. Super specific. I
Wow.
know, but if you know, you know.
I don't even think I know what that smells like.
It's like one of the best things in the fight. Okay, now is your chance. The reason we just cut pins B. The reason you cut pins A first is because it's a lot easier to get to test that fit.
Can't really test this fit right now.
Can't really test that fit. But when I had it in its other orientation, I cut pins A, I could move my support bar and test it, and it was perfect.
Yep.
So I'm going to confidently take this out.
This is also a note to mark on your piece which side is touching the support pins on the workstation. So that way, if you have to put it back, you can do it. I normally like to put a dot on the front face that's touching the pins. And so that helps me when because you can pick up any board and be like, okay, the dot, that needs to go against the two pins.
Yeah. That's the one I just cut. B. Just a quick test fit. Be smart. Work smarter, not harder.
Now, what kind of fit are you looking for when you're doing these, Jake?
We are looking for, that's going to come together with a few taps. Just kind of a squeaky.
Ooh, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the idea here is like you're probably going to have to assemble this multiple times. So if you make it too tight where you have to hammer it in, by the time you're fitting the drawer, by the time you're getting the hardware on, by the time you're gluing it and sanding it, you're not going to be able to kind of fit it easily. And you know, when you're building these things, like, you know, Origin can cut the really tight, precise nature. But, you know, sometimes I have to remind myself to back it off a little bit. You know, this is going to sit in your shop overnight. If you made it too tight, it might be tighter tomorrow. And so finding that right balance out is important because, you know, if it's too tight, you won't be able to get any glue in there, and you won't be able to take it apart to assemble.
I'm going to leave it.
Okay.
I'm going to leave it.
You know, for showman purposes, you want that squeaky clean fit, you know?
I do. Now we're going to cut the blind one.
Nice.
The half blind.
Okay, so that's the one where you kind of see the piece coming through the front. This one is going to be a little different. There is a bit of a note here, and we're going to actually cut this flat surface of this part. So we're going to actually pull out the shelf. The large shelf or small shelf?
I can do it on the small shelf.
Okay. You know what? If you do buy the workstation upgrade kit, you get a whole another piece. And so, you know, sometimes it's great because if you're cutting something big, you know, you just put it on that huge area. But I will say, especially when you're cutting manually, the small shelf's still kind of a winner.
Oh,
you know, when you're trying to get close to it and use Origin and you got to stand way behind the bigger shelf, sometimes the small shelf's still functional. So I like to leave them right side by side. And yeah, so in this case, basically what we're going to do is place it flat, and then we're going to use the dovetail bit to cut through and then that other piece will mate straight into it, but the bottom will not be cut all the way through, and that will become the front face that allows you not to see those corners.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of a good example of what we did earlier when we were testing. And you would imagine the front of the face of the drawer being the side there, and then it hides those pins coming out the front, which just makes kind of a much cleaner look, depending on your project. And this is where, like, with the app and these apps that create these different types of looks, you can actually create a very different feeling piece of furniture just by changing those values. You know, you can cut it to where you're doing it through dovetail, but there's only very small lines that's showing up, or very non-uniform lines. And so you'll kind of have to play with that and figure out what look you're going for. The evenly spaced dovetails are great for kind of utilitarian purposes, but if you're looking for a look, you probably will want to start moving into the specific types of pins that are different sizes.
All right. We are going for blind pin. So blind pins, the file has this little zigzag line. That is to imply that your board extends beyond that surface.
Yep.
Right. All I had to do was rotate it and flip it to make sure that I was using this anchor point right up here.
Yep. And all that can be done on tool. There are, you know, as of many releases ago, we had the ability to rotate and mirror all these shapes around. So sometimes you'll export something and realize, oh, I need to reference the other side. There's a button right on origin. You can click that. It'll reflect or rotate the shape properly.
Yeah. And we're going straight in with the dovetail.
And so, Jake, with this one, you already had this file set up.
I did, yeah.
But how did you keep the piece? Are you going to regrid, or what's your...
I have it pressed up against my clamping face
Ah.
and aligned with the side of the shelf.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Okay, dovetail bit in and Z-touch. Do a quick double check on my speeds. We're going to do this in 2 passes, a roughing and finishing, both of which at 0.5. We're just going to slow it way down.
Yeah, so when you're cutting in grain with a dovetail bit, it's going to be a lot easier than when you go to this flat grain or side grain. It will cause a lot more pressure on the bit, so just, you know, adjust accordingly.
We're going to try 20 inches per minute, speed 5.
Yep.
See how that feels.
And we're still doing it in a single cut because we have to undercut this whole area.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Here we go.
So same thing here. He put a little dot there so we get registered kind of on this flat area, and that allows the plunge to happen before we get there. Now you can see that where it just changed the blue, that's where the plunge stops. So you can, you know, based on your depth and your bit and your ramp speed, that's going to show you. But as soon as you see that light blue change to dark blue, that means you're at full depth and you can just let it go. For everyone who's watching live, have you ever cut dovetails with Origin? Which apps have you used? How did it go? Would love to hear feedback in the comments, and happy to answer questions after the show in the Q&A. Jake's going to now speed it up while it goes around the edge, just so you don't have to watch it go around the edge, and then he's going to slow it down here. You know, we're just doing this for show purposes, so you don't have to sit there, but, you know, I would just leave it running at whatever speed you find that works, and then you can, you know, get your tails cleaned up.
Yeah. 20 inches per minute feels like the right move for this.
Yeah, and I can hear the bit. It doesn't seem chattery. It doesn't seem screechy. Like it sounds like it is, you know, not slowing the bit down that much when it hits material. Mm-hmm. So I think you're probably right.
So much of this is just listening to it.
Yep. And that's something you kind of have to learn over time. But, you know, the way I like to tell people is you know it's wrong when it sounds wrong.
Or, doctor, it hurts when I do this. Don't do this.
Exactly. Dr. Dovetail.
All right, gonna clean up any fuzz.
Now, what you'll notice, and you can't see it yet, but we have a tiny bit of burning on the inside of this one.
Yeah.
Not that it matters visually, but that's a good indicator that, hey, maybe we can slow that spindle speed down a little bit or speed up our material a little bit. It's not super burned, but, you know, that's a good indicator. We always have people ask, hey, how do I know when I'm, you know, at the right speeds or not? If you're cutting ash and you see char marks inside the cuts, something's got to change. Either slow your spindle speed down or raise your auto speed.
Okie dokie. Here we go.
Boom.
Let's assemble this.
All right. Now the moment of truth. This is always one of the most tricky parts for the dovetails. Did you cut the right sides so that when you put it all together, it's going to come right there?
Yeah, I made it especially tricky for myself by doing both through and blind in the same box. Okay, that's how we're going to do this.
I think I'm feeling pretty good.
Would you grab me the green mallet?
Yes.
Please and thank
Jake's favorite mallet, as everyone who watches session knows. Box doesn't go together in this place without one. There we go, sir.
Something tells me one of these is going to be persuasion. Make sure my X's are on the
Pretty
right.
satisfying when they get persuaded together, though.
There we go.
Yeah, that fit, that sound right there where it just kind of goes in, perfect. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Very nice.
Okay, this one might need a little help. That's perfect. Wow. There we go.
Very nice.
We got a box.
Beautiful. And, yeah, it's a kind of cool way to decide, do you want through dovetails or do you want half blinds? Could see even a cool carving on the front of that. So
Nice.
that's
There
the
you
show. Dovetails on BenchPilot.
You had a couple of
You're right. We
couple of
almost ended it
call-outs. Yeah,
earlier.
we were talking about that Fusion plugin, the Autodesk Fusion 360
That's
plugin,
right.
and we haven't used that in 5 years?
It's been a long time. They Bieber and other apps that do this, they all kind of do similar stuff. Noah, if you don't remember, one of the sessions hosts from a long time ago, he wrote a Fusion plugin that has parametric features that allow you to actually generate evenly spaced dovetails. And so I just wanted to show you a couple things. So I'm gonna walk over here, and we're gonna start. Well, first of all, we showed dovetails with BenchPilot. You don't need BenchPilot to cut dovetails. You can do it by hand.
Mm-hmm.
And to prove it, we're gonna go all the way back to session 20. So I just got to show you this again.
What year was this?
Look at this guy.
Oh boy.
Look at this guy.
Hey everybody.
And Noah, they did a whole session on this, but really the whole point of this session is to show this kind of Fusion workflow where they essentially show you how this parameters are built, and you can kind of just enter the numbers and it will regenerate the file for you. And it looks a little funky, but it gives you the right type of files in the end. It's kind of funny seeing Jake, it was 5 years ago.
Been a minute.
Session 20. Okay, so that also is, if you go to Shaper Hub and search Dovetail, you'll see this basic Dovetail generator. If you're a Fusion user, this is kind of a pretty sweet little thing. If you're not a Fusion user, it's a lot. I would stick to something more like the Bieber web style thing. You don't need this. And this only does evenly spaced pins. So, but yeah, this is a cool one if you're trying to check it out different ways. And then also, we got our man Russ and Jake. They did another session, 106, where, you know,
A really clever dovetail generator that's a little different from the last dovetail generator that we showed in sessions.
so they're going to go through this whole thing, kind of how we did it, but really doing it, you know, by hand. And so that, if you want to learn some tips really around like where to, you know, plunge and retract, this is a good session 106. And then I also wanted to give a quick shout out to one of our influencers, Jason Bent, who has done some videos on BenchPilot, but also just put one out on using dovetails on Origin. So if you want, go check this out. It's a pretty long, good run through, about 40 minutes long, of kind of essentially a lot of stuff we went over. But if you know Jason Bent, check that out. So, yeah.
All right.
There's a couple extra resources if you want to check it out and learn more. And, you know, what better time than to do some dovetails than February what, Jake?
Starting February 9th, all the way to March 6th, we got that joinery challenge. Get those ideas cooking now.
So anyways, thank you, everyone, for coming. We hope you learned a thing or two, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Well, not next week, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. All right. Let's head into Q&A.